The Lightkeeper's Last Evening. Part 1. The Road That Led Back. There are places that disappear quietly, not because they are forgotten, but because the world moves on without waiting. The lighthouse at Greywater Point was one of those places. Once, its light had been a promise, a slow, steady circle of warmth against the dark sea, a signal that said, "You are not alone out here." But now, years later, the road leading to it was rarely used. Grass pushed through cracks in the asphalt. The wooden sign at the turn had faded so badly you could barely read the name. And yet, tonight, someone was driving that road again, not in a hurry, not chasing anything, just following a feeling that had grown too quiet to ignore. The rain had started before sunset, not heavy rain, the kind that drums and demands attention, but the soft, persistent kind that makes the world feel smaller and closer. The windshield wipers moved slowly, left, right, each pass clearing a narrow window through the blur. Inside the car, the air was warm. The heater hummed quietly, and the person behind the wheel, you, felt that familiar mixture of calm and uncertainty that comes with returning somewhere you once knew well. The letter had arrived 3 days earlier. No return address, no urgency in the handwriting, just a single sentence written carefully, as if the writer had all the time in the world. The light will be on tonight, if you want to see it one last time. There was no signature. There didn't need to be. You knew who had written it, or at least who used to live there. The last keeper of the lighthouse, a man who spoke slowly, moved carefully, and never seemed to be in a hurry, even when the weather turned rough. You had met him years ago, during a different chapter of your life, a chapter where everything felt unfinished. The road curved gently as it followed the coastline. To your right, the sea stretched out into darkness, barely visible except when the headlights caught the edge of foam rolling toward shore. To your left, low hills rose, softened by mist. The rain changed its sound depending on where you were. On open road, it tapped lightly against the roof. Near the cliffs, it whispered, as if the land itself was listening. You slowed as the old gate came into view. It stood open, hanging slightly crooked on its hinges. The chain that once held it closed lay coiled on the ground, rusted and forgotten. Beyond it, the narrow gravel path led the rest of the way. You turned off the engine and sat for a moment. The rain filled the silence immediately. A steady, patient sound. You could almost imagine the lighthouse already, the way it stood against the sky, the way its windows glowed softly at night, the way the air always smelled faintly of salt and warm oil. You stepped out of the car. The rain cooled your face, not sharply, just enough to wake your senses. The path crunched softly under your boots as you walked. With each step, the sound of the sea grew clearer. Slow waves, unhurried. The lighthouse appeared gradually through the mist. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just there, tall, pale stone rising from the ground like it had always belonged, and at the top, unmistakable even from a distance, a warm, steady glow. The light was on, not spinning wildly, not flashing, just resting in its slow, familiar rhythm. You felt something loosen in your chest, a quiet recognition. The door at the base of the lighthouse was unlocked. It always had been. The keeper had believed locks were unnecessary where trust was expected. You pushed it open gently. The familiar scent met you immediately. Warm metal, old wood, something faintly sweet from the kettle that always seemed to be on. Inside, the space was lit by lamps, and the soft glow filtering down from above. The walls curved gently around you. Shelves held books, journals, small objects gathered from years of quiet observation. And there, sitting at the small wooden table, was the keeper himself, older now, a little thinner, but exactly as you remembered. He looked up slowly when you entered and smiled. "You came," he said, as if he had never doubted you would. His voice was calm, unrushed. You nodded. "I saw the letter." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit," he said. "There's time." And somehow, in that simple sentence, you understood what this place had always been about. Not the light, not the sea, but time, held gently, without hurry, so that people could find their way back to themselves. The kettle whispered softly behind him. The rain tapped at the windows, and the lighthouse continued its steady glow above. The evening had only just begun. The Lightkeeper's Last Evening, Part 2. The room where time waited. You take the seat he offered. The chair is solid and worn smooth, its legs resting unevenly on the old stone floor. It doesn't wobble. It has simply learned the shape of this place. The keeper pours tea without asking. He always did. The kettle doesn't whistle. It never has. It only breathes. A soft, patient sound that blends with the rain tapping lightly against the thick glass windows. Steam rises slowly from the mugs. The scent is familiar. Something herbal, something warm, something meant to settle the body before the mind even notices. "You remember this room," he says gently, not as a question. You look around. The curved walls, the narrow shelves stacked with journals and weather logs, a clock mounted near the stairway, its hands moving but without any urgency. "I do," you reply. "It hasn't changed." The keeper smiles faintly. "Most places don't," he says. "People do." He slides the mug toward you. The ceramic is warm in your hands, comfortingly so. Outside, the sea rolls in slow, heavy breaths. You take a sip. The tea settles immediately, like it knows where to go. For a moment, neither of you speaks. Silence here is not something to fill. It has weight, texture, purpose. Eventually, you ask the question that has been waiting since the letter arrived. Why turn the light back on? The keeper looks past you, toward the narrow stairway spiraling upward. His gaze lingers there longer than necessary. "Because it was time," he says simply. That's not much of an answer. He nods. It never is, but it's usually the right one. He reaches for one of the journals on the shelf beside him. Its cover is faded leather, corners softened by years of use. He opens it carefully, as if the pages might be listening. I kept records, he says. Weather, ships, nights when the fog came in early, nights when the sea stayed quiet. He flips through a few pages, stopping near the middle. But I also kept notes, he continues. Things the lighthouse showed me. You raise an eyebrow. The lighthouse? He looks at you now, really looks at you. Yes, he says. This place doesn't just guide ships. The rain deepens slightly, its rhythm steady and soothing. The light above continues its slow rotation. The keeper taps the open page gently. People used to come here when they didn't know what to do next, he says. Not many, but enough. You think of yourself standing at the door earlier, drawn by a single sentence. I never advertised, he adds. They just found their way. He turns the journal so you can see. The handwriting is neat, deliberate. Dates fill the margins. Between them, small observations. She stayed until dawn. He left calmer than he arrived. The light stayed steady all night. You wrote about them, you say. I remembered them, he corrects softly. He closes the journal and sets it aside. I turned the light back on because tonight was the last night, he says. Your chest tightens. The last? He nods slowly. I'm leaving in the morning. The words settle into the room like fog, not heavy, just present. And the lighthouse? You ask. He smiles again. That's the question everyone asks. He leans back in his chair. The wood creaks faintly beneath him. The lighthouse doesn't belong to me, he says. It never did. It belongs to the moment someone needs it. The clock ticks softly, not loudly, just enough to remind you that time exists, but does not rule this place. I received your letter because you were supposed to be here tonight, he continues. You don't believe in coincidence, you say. He chuckles. I believe in timing. The room feels warmer now, or maybe you're simply noticing it more. The keeper stands slowly. His movements are careful, unhurried. Come, he says. There's something I want to show you. You rise and follow him to the base of the spiral staircase. The steps curve upward, disappearing into warm light. The lighthouse hums faintly around you. Not a sound you hear, a presence you feel. As you place your foot on the first step, the keeper speaks again. Not everyone who climbs the tower is meant to keep the light, he says quietly. But everyone who climbs it leaves something behind. The rain softens, the sea breathes, and together you begin to ascend. The Lightkeeper's Last Evening, Part 3. The Spiral That Held Memories. The staircase curves upward gently, not steep, not narrow, just enough to remind you that the tower was built for patience, not haste. Each step is worn smooth in the center, shaped by years of careful movement. People climbing slowly, often alone, often thinking. The keeper climbs ahead of you, one hand resting lightly on the stone wall. He does not rush. He never has. A small lamp in his hand casts warm light across the curved surface, making the stone glow softly, almost honey-colored. Your footsteps echo faintly, then disappear. The lighthouse seems to absorb sound. Halfway up, the keeper stops, not suddenly, as if he felt the moment arrive. "There's something about this stair," he says quietly. "Most people don't notice it right away. You wait. The higher you go," he continues, "the quieter your thoughts become." You hadn't realized it until he said it. The usual background noise of the mind, planning, remembering, anticipating, has softened. Not vanished, just slowed. You resume climbing. The air grows warmer as you ascend, carrying the faint scent of oil and salt and old paper. At a small landing, the keeper opens a low door. Inside is a narrow room. Simple. A bench beneath a small window. Shelves holding more journals. A lantern resting on a hook. "This is where people used to sit," he says, "when they weren't ready to go all the way up." The window looks out over the sea. From here, the water stretches endlessly, reflecting faint traces of the lighthouse glow. Rain falls steadily, but gently. You imagine someone sitting here late at night, wrapped in a coat, watching the waves, letting thoughts loosen their grip. They didn't always talk, the keeper adds. Sometimes they just listened. He reaches for one of the journals and opens it to a marked page. "This was years ago," he says. "A woman came during a storm much worse than tonight." He reads quietly. "She said the light felt like a hand on her back, not pushing, just steadying." He closes the journal. "Most people think guidance is something loud," he says, "but it's usually very quiet." You climb again. The spiral tightens slightly. The light above grows brighter. You feel a gentle pressure in your chest. Not anxiety, not excitement. Something closer to recognition. At the next level, the keeper pauses again. "There was a man who came here once," he says, convinced he'd lost his direction completely. The rain shifts, tapping softly against the stone. "He stayed the night," the keeper continues. "Slept right there on the floor, wrapped in a blanket. You can almost see it, the stillness, the low glow, the sound of the sea below. In the morning," he says, "he didn't ask for advice. He didn't ask for answers." He smiles faintly. He just said, "I remember what I was supposed to feel like." You reach the final stretch of stairs. The air here feels different, lighter, not because there's less weight, but because there's less resistance. At the top, the keeper opens a heavy door. Warm light spills out immediately, wrapping around you. This is the heart of the lighthouse. The lens stands tall at the center, its glass panels glowing softly as they rotate. The light is not harsh. It never blinds. It simply moves, slow, steady, predictable. The keeper steps aside, letting you enter fully. People had stood here for generations, watching the sea, watching the horizon, watching themselves become quieter. This is where the light learns, the keeper says softly. Learns what? You ask. Who needs it? He replies. The lens turns again. Light sweeps gently across the room, and for the first time since you arrived, you feel something settle completely. Not an answer, not a decision, a calm knowing. The keeper looks at you. His eyes hold something between gratitude and relief. You were always meant to see it from here, he says. Outside the rain continues. Inside the light turns, and the night stretches wide and patient around you. The Lightkeeper's Last Evening, Part 4. Why the light was never mine. The lens continues its slow rotation. Light moves across the stone walls in wide, gentle arcs, touching everything without lingering too long. Nothing here is meant to be held on to. The keeper stands beside you, hands resting loosely at his sides. For a long moment, neither of you speaks. The lighthouse does not require conversation. Finally, he exhales, a slow, measured breath, and says quietly, I was never meant to stay forever. You turn toward him. The words don't sound heavy. They sound settled. When I first arrived here, he continues, I thought the job was to keep the light on. He smiles faintly. That's what everyone thinks. The rain brushes softly against the glass above, a distant, patient sound. But the light, he says, was never the work. He reaches out and places his hand lightly against the metal railing near the lens. It's automatic, timed, reliable. It doesn't need a keeper. You watch the glow pass over his face, softening the lines there. What it needs, he continues, is someone to stay until the quiet arrives. The lens turns again. And when the quiet stays, he adds, it's time to leave. You feel that calm recognition again, the one that doesn't ask you to decide anything. People think endings are loud, the keeper says. They expect something dramatic. He shakes his head gently, but real endings are like this. He gestures to the room. Warm, still, complete. He looks out through the glass, toward the dark sea. I've felt it for a while now, he says. The lighthouse doesn't need me anymore. The words don't echo, they settle. And the letter? You ask softly. He turns back to you. The letter was not an invitation, he says. It was a confirmation. You wait. He meets your gaze, calm and steady. You were already on your way. The light sweeps across the room again. Outside, the rain eases slightly, becoming finer, softer. The keeper steps closer to the lens. When people stood here, he says, they often asked what the light was meant to show them. He smiles, just barely. It never showed them answers. He pauses. It showed them what didn't need to be asked anymore. You feel the truth of it settle gently inside you, not as understanding, as relief. The keeper reaches into the pocket of his coat and pulls out something small, a brass key, old, smooth, warmed by years of use. I carried this longer than I needed to, he says, placing it in your palm. The metal is warm, heavy in a comforting way. This doesn't open anything important, he adds quickly. It never did. Then why keep it? You ask. He smiles. To remind myself that not everything needs to be locked. The light turns again. The keeper's shoulders seem lighter now, as if something he had been holding carefully has finally been set down. I'll leave before morning, he says, quietly. He looks at you one last time. But tonight, he adds, the light stays on. Outside, the sea breathes. Inside, the lighthouse hums softly. And in that moment, you understand something without words. This place was never about holding on. It was about knowing when to let go. The Lightkeeper's Last Evening, Part 5. Night that asked for nothing. You descend the stairs together, not speaking. There is no need to carry words back down. The spiral feels different now, not because it has changed, but because you have. Each step lands softly. Each breath moves without effort. At the base of the tower, the keeper lights another lamp. Its glow fills the lower room with a warm, steady light that pushes the shadows gently into the corners, where they rest without resistance. I'll make something simple, he says. Not a question, a rhythm. The small kitchen space is familiar in its order. Everything has its place. A pot, a cutting board worn smooth, a kettle returned to its quiet breathing. You sit at the table again. The chair welcomes you back. The keeper moves slowly, deliberately. Each motion seems less like a task and more like a closing gesture, a way of honoring what the space has been. He slices bread, not thick, not thin, just enough. A pot warms on the stove. The scent that rises is gentle. Vegetables, herbs, something earthy and grounding. Outside, the rain has thinned to a fine, steady mist. The sound is softer now, almost like a memory of rain rather than rain itself. You know, the keeper says eventually, most people think the light is what brings them here. He stirs the pot once, slowly. But it's really the quiet, he continues. They notice it before they know what it is. You nod. The quiet here is not empty. It feels full, like a pause that holds meaning without asking you to interpret it. He serves the meal into two simple bowls. Nothing elaborate, nothing unnecessary. You eat slowly. The warmth settles easily. Each bite feels grounding, comforting, as if the food is less about nourishment and more about reminding the body that it is cared for. When you finish, neither of you rush to clear the table. The bowls can wait. Everything can wait. The keeper pours one last cup of tea. This one smells different, deeper, almost like wood and citrus. For the night, he says. You take it and feel the warmth spread through your hands again. The clock near the stairs ticks quietly. Its sound no longer feels like time passing. It feels like time resting. The keeper leans back slightly, his gaze unfocused. I used to stay awake all night when I first arrived, he says, watching the light, listening for storms. He smiles at the memory. But the sea doesn't need watching, he adds, and the night doesn't need guarding. He looks at you. Neither do people. The lamp flickers once, not sharply, just enough to remind you that light is alive here. The keeper stands and moves to the window. Outside, the sea reflects the lighthouse glow in long, broken lines. "I'll sleep for a bit," he says, "before morning. You understand. This is not abandonment. It is trust." "There's a room upstairs," he adds, "same one you stayed in before." You had forgotten that part. Or perhaps you had been waiting to remember it. The keeper pauses at the foot of the stairs. "Stay as long as you like," he says gently. The light knows when to turn itself off. He disappears up the stairs, his steps slow and even. The room settles around you. The lamp glows. The rain whispers. The lighthouse breathes. You finish your tea and rise. As you climb the stairs toward the small room beneath the lantern, you feel no urgency, no anticipation, only a deep, quiet readiness to rest. The night is not asking anything from you, and because of that, you are free to let go. The Lightkeeper's Last Evening, Part 6. The room beneath the turning light. The room is just as you remember it. Small, simple, enough. A narrow bed rests beneath the slanted ceiling, its blanket folded neatly, waiting without expectation. A chair stands near the window. A lamp glows softly on the bedside table, its light warmer than memory. The walls curve gently, following the shape of the tower. Nothing here feels sharp. Nothing feels unfinished. You set the brass key on the table. It makes a soft, final sound as it rests there. The window looks out toward the sea, but from this height, the water is mostly suggestion, dark movement beneath the slow sweep of light. Every few moments, the lighthouse beam passes across the glass. Not sudden, not bright, just a steady presence that arrives and leaves again. You sit on the edge of the bed. The mattress gives slightly, supporting you without sinking too far. Your body recognizes the posture immediately, resting, not preparing. You remove your shoes and place them neatly beside the chair. The floor is cool beneath your feet for a moment, then neutral. The blanket feels heavier than it looks, comfortably so. As you lie back, the ceiling comes into view. The beam of light does not reach here directly. Instead, it reflects softly, diffused and gentle. The room seems to breathe with the tower. Light passes. Darkness returns. Light passes again. The rhythm is slow enough that you stop counting. Thoughts arrive, not many, and not insistently. A memory of arriving here years ago. A sense of being unsure then, too. But the memories do not pull. They float. They pass. The sound of the sea reaches you faintly now, softened by distance and stone. It blends with the whisper of rain, with the subtle hum of the lighthouse machinery far above. Your breathing slows. In, out. The pauses between breaths stretch naturally. There is no effort in it. The body knows this rhythm. You feel warmth gather around your shoulders, your legs. The blanket settles, finding its place. The room holds steady. No creaks, no surprises. Just the quiet assurance of something built to last through many nights. You realize then what the keeper meant. The light is not here to keep you awake. It is here so you don't have to be. Each time it passes, it seems to say the same thing. You are seen. You are safe. You can rest now. Your eyes close fully. The beam continues its slow turning, whether you notice it or not. The sea breathes. The night deepens. And somewhere below, the keeper sleeps too, trusting the lighthouse, trusting the quiet, trusting that everything that needed tending has already been tended. Sleep arrives without announcement, without resistance, held gently beneath the turning light. The Lightkeeper's Last Evening, Part 7. When the Night Takes Over. The room no longer asks for attention. It holds. The lighthouse continues its slow, patient turning above you, but you no longer follow the light with your mind. It moves, whether you notice it or not. That is enough. Your body rests fully now. The bed supports you evenly. The blanket keeps its gentle weight. Nothing presses, nothing pulls. Breath moves on its own. In, out, slow, unforced. The pause between breaths widens, soft and comfortable, like a quiet stretch of water between waves. Outside, the sea continues its long rhythm. It does not change its pace. It does not demand to be heard. It simply exists, steady, predictable, calm. The rain has become very light now, almost gone. What remains is only the memory of it, lingering in the air, softening the edges of sound. The room stays warm, not warmer, not cooler, exactly as it needs to be. Your shoulders loosen further, your jaw softens, your hands rest open, your legs feel heavy in the most comfortable way. There is no urge to move, no need to adjust. The lighthouse beam passes again, reflected gently across the wall. Light, then shadow, light, then shadow. The rhythm is slow enough to blend with breathing. Your mind has become very quiet. Thoughts no longer form into sentences. If anything appears at all, it dissolves before it can settle. Warmth, weight, stillness, breath, in, out. Time passes without shape. Minutes loosen. Hours stretch quietly. The night holds everything steady. Below, the keeper sleeps. Above, the light turns. Around you, the tower remains solid and calm, holding the night exactly as it has for so many years. Nothing needs watching. Nothing needs deciding. Nothing needs remembering. Sleep deepens naturally, smoothly, without interruption, and the lighthouse continues its quiet work, not guiding ships now, not calling anyone forward, but simply keeping the night gentle and safe. The Lightkeeper's Last Evening, Part 8. The Rhythm That Does Not Wake You. Nothing changes now. The room remains exactly as it is. The lighthouse continues its slow, patient turning above, but the movement no longer reaches your thoughts. It exists somewhere beyond awareness, like a steady heartbeat in the distance. Your breathing remains slow and even, in, out. The pause between breaths is wide and calm. Your body trusts this rhythm completely. The bed supports you without effort. The blanket rests where it belongs. Warmth stays even and gentle. There is no reason to move. Your shoulders remain relaxed. Your jaw stays soft. Your hands rest open and still. The sea continues its quiet breathing far below. Not loud, not close, just present. The sound blends into the night, becoming part of the same soft background that holds everything steady. The lighthouse beam passes again. Light touches the wall, then fades. Light returns, then leaves. The pattern is slow, predictable, reassuring. Your mind no longer follows it. Sleep has taken over gently. Thought does not form. Time does not stretch or shorten. There is only continuation. Breath continues. In, out. Your heart moves steadily, quietly, without effort. Each beat arrives calmly. Each beat leaves calmly. Nothing interrupts. Nothing intrudes. The tower remains solid and still, holding the night without change. The keeper sleeps below. The sea rests in its long rhythm. The light turns, and you remain asleep, comfortable, supported, undisturbed, as the night continues exactly as it should. The Light Keepers, Last Evening, Part 9. When the night holds steady, when the night remains calm, nothing shifts, nothing calls for attention. The room stays warm and still, holding its quiet shape around you. Your breathing continues in its slow, familiar rhythm, in, out. The pause between breaths is wide and gentle, comfortable and safe. Your body rests fully. Muscles remain loose. Joints rest easily. There is no impulse to move. The blanket keeps its steady weight. The bed supports you evenly. Nothing presses. Nothing pulls. Outside, the sea continues its distant breathing. Not loud, not near, just present, steady, predictable. The lighthouse beam continues its slow turning far above. Light passes, shadow returns. The rhythm does not change. Your mind remains quiet. No thoughts form. No images appear. If anything touches awareness at all, it dissolves immediately, leaving only stillness behind. Warmth, weight, rest, breath, in, out. Your heart continues its gentle rhythm, soft, even, reliable. Each beat arrives calmly and leaves calmly. The tower remains solid and unmoving. Stone holds warmth. Wood holds silence. Everything stays exactly as it is meant to be. Time passes without shape. Minutes drift. Hours pass quietly. Yet nothing feels different. This sameness continues. This sameness is what keeps sleep deep and undisturbed. Nothing interrupts. Nothing intrudes. The night continues to hold you, comfortably, steadily, gently, as sleep remains smooth and complete beneath the turning light.